I just want to welcome everybody for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today and to learn about how we can show up in our workplaces with compassion and understanding. I'm going to share my screen. I've done a little presentation. So, compassion. It's a big one, and that it's a catalyst for change. And that's I think as human beings, like we strive for that connection pieces and within those connection pieces within community, work, personal lives, and that we seek that compassion and understanding. And that so understanding and the empathy towards others, it's a catalyst for positive change and fostering an environment of mutual respect, trust, and collaboration in the workplace. And that we all want to feel like we belong to something bigger than just what we're doing at work. And that's as in life. We want to feel that we belong, we fit in, and we have the connection. So you can see here the benefits of compassion, and that it improves employees' well-being. It fosters a supportive environment. It reduces our stress levels, and it can ultimately help prevent burnout. To have that understanding and that with your team members, and if you're having a bad day and you know that you have a safe person you can go and talk to, that is huge. And that's that connection piece that we look for. So another benefit, as you can see on the screen, it increases your productivity. Compassionate workplaces cultivate collaboration and engagement and driving productivity. So, I mean, that's in a nutshell, you can say, you know what? If you feel good about going to work and you feel like you belong to the bigger picture and that you're going to contribute more. You want to rise to challenges, lean into things that you've never done before, because you know at the end of the day, you have a team that you can go back to and that are going to be there to support you. So positive workplace, work culture, it's compassion promotes trust, respect, inclusivity, creating a harmonious culture. So that's just, you know what? We accept everyone for who they are and how they show up. That's the end of it. At the end of the day, if you have compassion in your workplace, I know that I can log in because CMHA, we are completely virtual. I can log in and I have a few people that I can reach out to and just say like, I'm really like struggling today. And that it's, I'm very proud to be working for CMHA because within the At Work program, we always talk about anyone can find employment. And that whether you live with a mental illness, whether you live with an addiction disorder, and that it's just finding the right employer for the right person and the right person with the right employer. And that's as simple as that. So it's that compassion piece. When I speak to employers, which I do on a daily basis, and that I look for that compassion piece. Are they able to see themselves in situations that some of us would never ever dream of? So, and including everyone. And it's not that you provide a space for them. It's actually they belong there at the table with us. We're all individuals. We all have stories to tell. We all have history in that. But in that journey, we also learn about compassion for oneself. So this little statement by the Dalai Lama: compassion is the radicalism of our time. With things speeding up, with technology getting better, and that I find that a lot of people, we're racing to finish our workday. We're racing to get all these assignments in, or just to meet the demands of our jobs. So to go back and say, like, compassion it's the radicalism for our time. And that because we don't know what anyone else is going through, even if it's your best friend or your best workmate. There's some things as humans that we keep to ourselves. And that, so yeah, just remember that the next time when you notice like your coworker is not quite the same as they were the day before. And that provide that compassion, and that because that can make or break someone's day. And that's so with this, mindfulness and self-awareness, and that understanding mindfulness, and that practicing mindfulness. It's to be fully present in a moment, and that to be able to watch and see individuals' interactions, to notice that Sally from 2 cubicles down, well, you know what? Normally Sally might come in with a smile and a coffee and just joking or singing, and some mornings she doesn't. And that's when we need to be asking ourselves, you know what? Okay, so what's going on with Sally? She's a little different. And that, so being fully present in a moment, you're able to pick up on those little slight cues that people give off. And that, so, and then there's the self-awareness piece, which is huge for me because I live with mental illness. And it wasn't until I did an inward dive into my own mental illness and understanding how I show up when I'm activated, or when I haven't had enough sleep, or my 16-year-old is giving me a hard time getting out the door in the morning. And that, because we don't only carry our work to home life, we carry our home life to work. And after the pandemic, a lot of companies have learned that, you know what, we can be just as productive, if not more productive, from our home setting. Which, when I first signed on back in 2020 with CMHA, I thought, yes, I'm going to work from home. I'm going to be able to be in my yoga pants, and that I didn't have enough forward thinking to understand at that time that, you know what, the self-awareness piece for me wasn't there. And that, so whatever I was feeling, and that it would come across on the screen. And not so much with the participants of the program, but with my coworkers. And that, so that self-awareness piece, to be able to deepen our understanding of our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors, it helps us with our own personal growth, which leads into compassion for others. So mindfulness and empathy. So once you have a good handle on mindfulness, which is very hard, it's not easy, but it is possible. And that you're practicing your mindfulness, it will enhance the empathy and compassion towards others. And that by fostering a non-judgmental, accepting attitudes of everyone, and that not putting our thoughts and our perception and that on others, and just holding that space for them, and just listening, and not listening to react or to answer, but just listening. And that, so then like our practical exercises, and that it provides exercises and techniques to cultivate mindfulness and self-awareness. So for myself, when I first needed to tap into mindfulness, and that I started with journaling. So before I go to bed at night, I will write down thoughts that I've had throughout the day, and then when my book is filled, I'll either shred it or I'll burn it. And that because no one else is going to understand what I'm writing in this book. These are my personal thoughts. And sometimes they're not a full sentence. It could be just one word, and that could explain everything for the day for me. So the mindfulness and the self-awareness in meditation, journaling, and those self-reflection exercises, they're huge, especially the self-reflection piece. When you get to that far, you can always stop and say like, okay, how did I show up today? And that was this, did I create a toxic environment, or was I understanding, empathetic, compassionate to my coworkers? And that we don't have to agree with everything, and that, but we do hold space for everyone with that compassion. So, and then here on the end, it says like the benefits in the workplace. Well, the benefits of practicing mindfulness and self-awareness in the workplace: reducing your stress, improving your focus and productivity, and it's enhancing your interpersonal relationships. So you're able to build those bonds, and that at a deeper level than just knowing, scratching the surface on an employee, scratching the surface with your boss, and that it will help you to spread your wings a little further out with compassion instead of having the lens of judgment and that on others. So Maya Angelou was, she was a great American poet, civil rights activist. She was renowned for her powerful autobiographical work that explored themes of radicalism, racism, identified, and resilience. Through her writings and public appearances, Angelou embodied the qualities of a compassionate leader, using her voice to advocate for equality, justice, and human dignity. And that she's one of many, many lovely individuals out there that were speaking from the heart, and her words live on through books, her poetry. So being able to foster empathy, and that because to learn the mindfulness and then the empathy, then that grows into our compassion. So we need to encourage our coworkers to continuously stepping into shoes of their colleagues, actively trying to understand their motivations, the challenges, and their viewpoints. And that, so it's kind of like, you know what, like just stepping back and looking like, oh, okay, yeah, Sally down there. Well, you know what, recently, like her mom died. She was in a car accident, and that it's just how we look at things. It's not just that Sally is down there being argumentative with everybody. You know what? Like no one, that's not her personality. And that, so that those are those viewpoints, and that with the mindfulness, you're able to pick up on that, oh, okay, well, there's something going on, and that, you know what, maybe I just need to slip her a little note or invite her out for a coffee, or seeing what she's doing at lunch hour if she wants to sit down and have a chat. And that it's not just ignoring what's going on around us, it's actually being inquisitive and wanting to know more, and that about our colleagues that we work with. So that comes into the act of listening, in that to promote the practice of a non-judgmental listening, allowing individuals to fully express themselves without interruption. And that, honestly, that's a hard one for me. And that because I'm a fixer. I just want everyone to be happy and just joyful and feel the best they can at any given point in time. But there's a saying that, you know what, silence is golden. And if you're just sitting there listening and just letting that individual just express themselves, whether it's through crying, whether it's through ranting, and just having someone sitting there beside you as you're going through it, and that it's huge. You really feel like they're there. They're not on their phone. They're not like chatting with someone else. They're focused in on you, and they're there to hear you. Diversity training, implementing educational programs aimed to promoting cultural awareness, unconscious bias, and that's huge. Um, and that in this day and age, and that with newcomers coming to us, and that we want to be compassionate. We don't know what they've been through, and that we don't know anything that anyone really's been through. But with the diversity training, it can give you a little small nugget of something that you might be able to apply, and that so you don't have a bias when you're meeting a new employee or a new community member. And that, so I really like lead by example. That's a huge one for me. Organizational leaders should model empathetic behavior, actively demonstrating a willingness to consider diverse perceptions, and show genuine concern for others' well-beings. And I'm going to go back and toot CMHA's horn again, because when I first came on, it's not only that we have days that we can take off for to be sick, but we also had wellness days. And every 2 months, we could take a day off. Didn't come out of our sick bank. It was for our wellness. And then when our new ED came in, they incorporated them all, because as an organization that talks about leading by example, and that we really do, because we don't have sick days anymore. We have wellness days. And those wellness days, it takes a stigma off of like, oh, well, I'm not well enough. I didn't have enough sleep last night to be able to go into work. So then I'm hiding out in my house because I don't want anyone from work to see me out in the community, and go, well, Tracy wasn't sick. And that it's just changing that lens on everything. And that it's a wellness day. Just because I'm not well enough to go to work doesn't mean I don't need to go out in my community. And that sometimes that's the thing we need, is to get out and connect and get some sun on our face, or walk through a field, and that in our toes in the grass. It's the little things in life that really like keep us moving forward and have that compassionate lens. So inclusive and supportive environment. So a diverse team. Diversity is huge in that because we don't know everything. And that I love meeting someone new. I love getting to know them. I love getting to know all their the little signs and that. Like if like my coworker, if she shows up and on screen on a morning and that, and I notice that, you know what, she has darker circles under her eyes and that's not typically her. And that's when I lean in and I ask her and that like, how are you doing? And that, or did you have a rough night last night? Just to let her know that, you know what, I care and that I care about her, the human, not her, the team member. It's her, the human, and that. So within active listening, that's where we really show that we're there and we're supportive and that, and creating open dialogues in between colleagues and that, you know, it's a safe place when you can engage in open conversations about stuff. It's not being judgmental. It's not gossiping and that it's just, you know what, today was a really hard day and that, or this training is really affecting me today and that, and then you can just inquire more and that's mentoring and that. So mentoring provides guidance, support to the mentee, providing growth and development. So recently here within CMHA, I was blessed to have a new staff member on the team and I've taken a different approach in onboarding her into the at work program and that she is like in the beginning, she was going to all the connects that I would go to. She would see how I show up, see how I held space, and see how I role model things for the participants of our program. So in doing that, it's not only giving her the lift up to say like, okay, yeah, I know I can do this. And that it's giving her someone, a role model, and that to that she can grow in her own way, but also knows how this program needs to be represented out in community. And that so, and then empathy workshops. Those are very important. And that a group activity focused on building empathy and understanding. And that I love when teams get to come together and it's not about work because that's when we learn the most about each other. We have staff members here at CMHA that, you know what, when we're playing like a scavenger hunt, there are some ruthless people on the team and when I say ruthless, I mean like they need to win and I would have never guessed that of them from the day-to-day interactions and that they don't present that way. And there's nothing wrong with being that way. I mean, because that's a game, it's fun, but it's just interesting to see how different environments, different techniques, and that can bring out different aspects of us. And that as coworkers, as leaders, as humans. So compassion versus sympathy. And that, so we can see here that compassion from a scale of 0 to 100, and that each one, it's the depth of understanding and personal investment. With compassion, like we're almost all in. and that we're investing our time, we're investing pieces of ourself that they don't necessarily have anything to do with our work life. And that, so like sympathy is at 60, empathy, and then pity. And that's the worst thing we can do, is to pity anyone. So I like to stay up at the other end here at 95% out of 100. It's the compassion. Because if you're compassionate within your work environment, it comes across that you are a safe person and that you don't have to understand what they're going through, but you're just there to listen. And that so these are some of the obstacles and that have come out, and the biggest one is the fear of vulnerability or discomfort. And that is huge, because when we make the decision to share what's going on outside of work or even within work, we put ourselves in a vulnerable situation. And that's why I always say, like, take it slow when you're going to disclose something. And that, because that fear of vulnerability, you don't know the work culture. And that I always go into every employment thinking that, you know what, I always believe the good in everybody. And that until I'm given a reason not to. And then I still give them second chances. And that, but for myself, I want to make sure that everyone feels that they belong. And that's huge, because that's a huge thing for me. Growing up, being undiagnosed until I was in my 30s, it was really hard. I always wanted to fit in, and I never felt like I did. I floated around from group to group, got along with everybody, and had compassion for everybody. In that, so that fear of vulnerability or discomfort, I lived there. And it's difficult to actually measure the impact that we do have when we show up being our true authentic selves and caring for individuals and worrying about individuals. But I'm a firm believer that what we put out in the universe, we get back tenfold. And that we might not see it right away. It might be 2 years down the road. It might be 20 years down the road that someone comes back and says, like, oh, that thing you did for me way back when, you know what? You were the only one that reached out to me during that time, and I really appreciate it. So even though we can't, it's difficult to measure our impact, we do have little golden moments, and that actually show the impact that we are having on humans and on society. And that is the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions or anything, I'm more than willing to help provide some answers.